Hi everybody, very welcome to Mentour and yet another video podcast. As always, I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic. Today on the video, guys, Boeing is likely to announce a complete shutdown of the 737 MAX production line. Why is this happening now and how will it impact the industry? Stay tuned.
Wind 31016, everyone right, right on. Clear to land 31 right. Delta 260, produced.
This video is brought to you in cooperation with the Mentour Aviation app news function. So if you guys haven't downloaded the app already, you should definitely do it now. It's completely free. You have the links here in the description of the video or on mentorpilot.com/apps, okay? And what is new then? Well, the news is that I have a formidable team that is helping me to find news about the aviation world from all over the industry. Anything from incidents, accidents to industry news, like this news that I'm about to talk about today, is in the app. You just have to go there and they come in nice chronological order for you. You can check them out in their own full glory. So get the app and I'll see you guys in the chat or in the forums where we can discuss the news afterwards. When this video is recorded, we're still waiting for the Boeing management team to come back with their final decision when it comes to the 737 MAX production line. The Boeing management have been sitting in a scheduled meeting that started on Sunday and is likely to be done today on Monday. And we think as the markets close tonight, then Boeing will come with a decision regarding the 737 MAX line. So why is this happening now? Well, as we all know, we had the two fatal crashes with the 737 MAX that happened late 2018 and in March 2019. After that, the FAA decided, together with all of the aviation authorities around the world, to ground the aircraft. Prior to this happening, the Boeing line was the most highly effective aviation aircraft line in the world. It's producing 52 aircraft a month. That's an astonishing rate of aircraft production. After the 737 MAX was grounded, well then they decided to reduce the output with about a fifth. So from about April 2019, Boeing has been producing 42 aircraft a month, but that's still a lot of aircraft being produced when they're not allowed to fly. I'm sure that you all saw in the end of the summer the kind of pictures that was being cabled out by news outlets in the United States of Maxes being parked in the employee parking lots around Renton. This is still going on. At the moment, there are about 800 737 Maxes around, and about 500 of those are standing in parking locations around Renton and Seattle area and other parking areas around the United States. The 737 MAX is still allowed to fly, but only to be positioned in a kind of holding or parking area. So that's why I've been getting questions as well on Twitter, for example, why they can see a 737 MAX flying. Sometimes you might see an odd MAX flying, but that's only to have it repositioned into parking. All right, that's still allowed. So why have Boeing continued then to create Boeing 737 MAXes when they knew that it was grounded? Well, there are a lot of things that you need to think about when it comes to production of aircraft. First of all, Boeing was fully expecting for the MAX to be fixed, to have it released by the FAA within a few months after its grounding. That was in the beginning when before they realized how complex the problems actually were. And also, I think before they realized that the FAA took this very personally and that they were going to do it absolutely 100% right this time. So the release date of the MAX have constantly been pushed forward. And of course, if Boeing thinks that it's soon going to be released, it's going to continue to produce the MAXes. Because remember that there's almost 4,500 MAXes on order. There's a backlog of 4,500 aircraft. So for them to continue to produce with 42 aircraft a month would actually serve their purpose quite well. When the MAX is then released, they can start delivering, and when they deliver the aircraft, that's when the bulk of all of the money that they're being owed is being paid out. there are also a secondary part of this that is really important to understand. And that is, you can't just shut down a line of aircraft. Like the supply chain that is needed in order to make a 737 is huge. You have, of course, the main delivery place, which is in Renton and Seattle mostly. But below that, you have several suppliers, both in the United States and internationally, that are depending on Boeing for their income. So if Boeing would to stop the production completely, all of these suppliers would be starting to lose money. Some of them could even go out of business if the shutdown of the line is going on for too long. And that would then create a huge problem in the supply chain when it's time to start up the line again. Also, you have to consider the state of the American economy. The American economy is booming at the moment. It's doing very, very well. The employment rate is very high. So this means that if you are an engineer working for Boeing, and remember that there's 12,000 people working in the rental facility building the 737 MAX. And if you have those kind of qualifications and Boeing comes to you and said that, listen, we will try to absorb as many people as possible into our other production lines, but we will not be able to absorb everyone. So there's going to be a furlough. There's going to be several people, several thousand people that are likely going to go without work until the 737 MAX line is up and running again. Well, then if you're in a position like that, you're going to start looking for work, aren't you? And in the economy that is in the United States at the moment, it's likely that you quite quickly will find another job. So once again, when Boeing wants to start up the production line, the workers that were there, that were qualified, that knew what they were doing, they might already be gone, or a significant number of them. And that's also a huge problem for a manufacturer like Boeing. But there's only so long that you can wait. And FAA last week announced through its administrator Steve Dixon that it had more than a dozen outstanding items that still needed to be evaluated and kind of signed off on before it could release it. So it would not release the 737 MAX to service within 2019, which Boeing had originally hoped for. There are outstanding items like they still have to sign off on the software fix on the MCAS. Also, they're still debating and looking into the training requirements for pilots. So they don't know yet if they are going to force mandatory simulator training onto the operators, or if it's just going to be a beefed up theoretical package that they need to do prior to operating the jet. But all of these things makes FAA predict that the final certification of the aircraft is probably not going to be done until mid-February 2020, and it could go into March or even April. And that is going to be the kind of final nail in the coffin for Boeing. They are going to have to shut down the line, or at least reduce it down to a trickle. Of course, they already had planned the holidays, which is about 2 weeks, where they wouldn't be producing anything anyway, starting now until the beginning of next year. But after that, it's likely that it's going to start furloughing workers. And this is going to have those kind of ripple effects onto the economy that I was talking about before. So what is all this doing to the Boeing stock and to the airlines that are depending on the 737 MAX then? Well, the fact is that this is a huge deal for the airline industry. Remember that Boeing is not getting paid until it starts delivering the aircraft. It's getting a little bit of payment before, but the bulk of the money is coming as they're delivering the aircraft. On top of this, they are also facing huge payouts to the airlines that had ordered these aircraft but are not getting them. Now, some people would ask, well, why do they have to pay this much money to the airlines then? They're just not getting them. I can understand it for the people who have aircraft that are grounded, but what about these airlines that have ordered them but are not getting them? But what you need to understand about the airline business is that the airlines view the aircraft as commodity. All right, it's being sold and it's being bought. So there's a lot of airlines out there who have bought the 737 MAX and have planned when they were going to get them, and they have kind of used those days to coincide with when they're going to get rid of their older 737. So either lease them back to the leasing company they're getting them from, or selling them outright. And those contracts where they're going to be selling aircraft or leasing them back cannot be changed, especially not now when the industry is screaming for 737s. So this means that an airline that has bought, let's say, 20 737 MAXs, say that they have a fleet of 100 737s. Well, then they might have planned for an expansion with 10 737s, but the other 10, they were just replacements for old aircraft that they're now going to get rid of. So this means that for that airline that had 100 737s, they are now going from a planned expansion of 10 to a contraction with 10, right? They're now becoming 90. Of course, they might have sold the tickets, they might have planned their flights based on having those 737s, or as in the case with Norwegian Air Shuttle, for example, they had a whole operation from Ireland to the United States built on the fact that they had the more efficient MAXs to fly. Of course, when those went grounded, they couldn't use these old 737NGs to operate those kind of services. They weren't efficient enough, so they had to close that operation completely down. So this is why this is becoming such a huge, expensive deal for Boeing. And this is why they really, really, really want the 737 MAX to be released. To a point where there seems like there might be even a rift coming up between the FAA and Boeing, where the FAA internally have been indicating, and several news sources have been talking about this, that they think that the press releases that Boeing has been doing, where they've said that they think that the 737 MAX is going to be flying in December 2019, have been deliberately put out in order to put pressure on the FAA to release the jet early. Now, this has not been confirmed by Boeing, definitely, and not the FAA. This is just leaked out to newspapers. But if that's the case, then the FAA might make a huge point of just saying that, nope, we're not going to release it until earliest this date, and that might have forced the cut down of the line already. So this is what I wanted to tell you. This is the kind of the things that are going on behind the scenes and how that affects the industry as a whole. I think that we're all hoping that the 737 MAX will be evaluated, be fixed to be completely safe and be released as soon as possible, because it would be the best thing for Boeing, obviously, but for the airline industry as a whole. So let's see what the 2020 brings. If you like these kind of discussions, this kind of in-depth, more technical or analysis of the industry discussions, then make sure that you have downloaded the Mentour Aviation app. Once again, it's completely free, and you would have gotten these kind of news through the news feature. The more important things we will be pushing out to you, so you know when they happen. Less important stuff will still be in there, so you can just scroll in and check what's going on in the industry. And if you want to discuss it, well, then you just go over to either the forums or the chat. You can tag pilots like me, other professional pilots that are in there as well. Ask your questions about it, and we can have a really stimulating discussion. All right? Get the app now, and I'll see you guys in there. Have an absolutely fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Right, guys, I really hope that you liked that. If you want more content like that, more aviation content, well then, check this out. I hope that you have subscribed to the channel and that you've highlighted the little notification bell. See you inside of the Mentour Aviation app, and have an absolutely fantastic day. Bye-bye.